Hello, everyone. This is Warhawk Beyond 2040, and welcome to another edition of the Flash Season 9 review series. And today I am going to be talking about Episode 2, Hear No Evil, which I have just finished watching. And this episode, apart from the ending, which I thought was really cool, this episode was pretty dry. There wasn't really much going for it. There was barely anything to get my teeth into. And even though I said the Season 9 premiere of the show, Episode 1, wasn't that great, at least it was watchable, and there were a couple of things that were salvageable, shall we say. This episode, on the other hand, not so much. The Flash barely had any screen time. We're kind of going back to that status quo again. The Flash taking a backseat to his own show. Yeah. Wasn't a fan of this episode at all. And the whole Chester and Allegra, will they, won't they? I'm sorry, but I really don't care. I'm just going to go out and say it right now. I do not care. Nothing against the two of them as characters. Individually, they're okay. But together, no. Just don't care. Not invested. Not interested whatsoever. So I'm going to give a quick recap of what's happened so far, and then I'm going to get straight into talking about Episode 2. So let's go. So, as we saw back in Episode 1, which was the Season 9 premiere, Barry kept experiencing nightmares that he wasn't able to save everyone, and they were kind of doing this whole Groundhog Day thing where Iris and Barry and everybody else involved was trapped in a time loop, and Barry was keeping a record of what's supposed to happen leading up to the future. And yeah, it was quite amusing for the most part, but at the same time, you can't help but feel that we've kind of done things like this before. We did, however, at the end get a very cool tease of Red Death. Now, everybody knows that Red Death is going to be the main villain for Season 9. And we got a little tease of, what Red Death is going to be all about. We haven't seen Red Death in the full costume yet, but we got a tease that Red Death is here and out there. So that was a cool way to end the Season 9 premiere, which leads into Episode 2. Now, at the end of Episode 1, we got a tease of Caitlin Snow, or potentially someone supposed to be Caitlin Snow or Frost, and it kind of left things on a cliffhanger. So this episode pretty much picks up where we left off from the end of Episode 1. So with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about Episode 2, Hear No Evil. So this episode opens up with Barry Allen and the rest of Team Flash asking who the visitor is. Mark quickly shows up to help with introductions, and she introduces herself as Snow. So she's essentially is not Caitlin Snow or Killer Frost. She's just plain old Snow. Mark explains that Caitlin continued to work with him after Barry destroyed her lab, but Snow came out of the CRC chamber instead, and Snow doesn't know who she is. She's just a blank slate with no memories. Mark also reveals that Caitlin is dead, but he has a plan to bring her back. The plan on the surface is pretty simple. Mark wants Team Flash to provide a stable energy source to reverse the process that created Snow to bring Caitlin back. Barry agrees and they get to work. However, Snow seems unsure and Mark is up to something. The real truth is he wants to bring Frost back, not Caitlin. We get another scene where we see Chester trying to talk to Allegra about the kiss they had in the last episode, but she sort of pushes that conversation under the carpet and moves swiftly on with trying to get the mission done. Yawn. Joe and Cecile try to process the loss of Caitlin. They also talk about Joe wanting the family to move away from Central City, something that Cecile is struggling with. Barry is struggling with how things ended the last time he saw Caitlin, and he's determined that the plan will work. Meanwhile, in Central City at Hartley Rathaway's karaoke club, Hartley goes to leave, but he's attacked by a new Fiddler in the parking lot. He fights with her and manages to get away, but she does some serious damage before he flees, and Fiddler escapes. At Star Lab, Snow enters the CRC with Mark, reassuring that she's doing the right thing. However, when they fire things up, things quickly go wrong, and Barry gets Snow out, and Mark freaks out. Snow's says that Mark didn't tell her it would hurt, just that it would bring them back, meaning it would bring both Caitlin and Frost back. Chester realizes that the problem trying to bring both of them back. Barry wants to know why Mark lied. Mark says it's because he can't trust them and says he will never give up on Frost. The intruder alert goes off. It's Hartley. He's looking for Caitlin because he needs a doctor. He needs a specific device to counteract the Fiddler's attacks. Barry finds it and helps him. Hartley confirms that the Fiddler who attacked him is not the Fiddler they know. This is a new one. This is probably due to Crisis changing everything, with all the Earths fusing together. We then see the new Fiddler goes to see the mysterious figure who turns out to be Red Death, who tells her that she failed and tells her that failing isn't an option, and Red Death tells her that if she fails again, she will die. Now, these little scenes like this I thought were really cool because they're setting up the presence of Red Death, who is demonically evil and kind of reminds me of Zoom from Season 2, but just a little bit different. So I thought that was quite cool. Barry goes to speak with Mark at the bar. He tells Mark that he understands why he did what he did, but he's now also a part of Team Flash. Can I be part of Team Flash too? Because it seems like this is the status quo for every episode of The Flash. Anyone can join Team Flash. It's not like the Justice League where, you know, you had to be a hero to join. It's like, hey, you want to be in Team Flash? Yeah, you want to be in Team Flash? You get to be in Team Flash. I get to be in Team Flash. Everyone gets to be in Team Flash. Yeah, that's getting a bit old now, but that's just me. Barry tells Mark that no more going rogue, and that if Mark lets them in, they can work together and do the impossible. They then get a message that they need to go to Star Labs. Chester finds out that neural DNA was never going to work. Instead, they need an imprint or map of Caitlin's mind, and they should have one because Caitlin's dad made one after he did what he did with Caitlin and Frost's consciousness when Caitlin was a child. Snow finds Hartley, who is frustrated trying to work on his sonic gauntlet. Snow is very empathetic and asks him what's wrong. Hartley tells her that she's useless, but his heart rate goes up and she realizes he's afraid of someone else, his partner, getting hurt. She tells him that it's beautiful that he changed for his ways to keep Roderick safe, but it's also not real change and it's still a choice he has to make for himself. Barry gets the reports that Thomas Snow made, and it turns out that Thomas tries to reverse what he did to Caitlin and Frost at one point and realized that he couldn't do so without killing one of them. They can only bring one person out of that CRC chamber, which means they have to choose Caitlin, Frost, or Snow. Team Flash gets together to vote. Allegra chooses Frost because Caitlin did. Chester doesn't want to choose but chooses Caitlin because it makes the most sense in terms of science. Iris chooses Frost. Barry says he needs more time to think, but Mark says they're doing it in 8 hours no matter what. However, Snow weighs in. She says she wishes she'd never been born because the family's being torn apart and it's her fault. Iris tells Barry she chose Frost because she didn't choose her when she was alive. Barry realises that Caitlin made her own choice when she stepped into the CRC. It gives him clarity. Snow and Cecile meet. Snow says she wishes she knew what her purpose is. Cecile says she can't read her feelings. They become fast friends and talk about the vote. Cecile asks Snow how she feels. Snow says she doesn't want to go back inside the CRC and she's afraid of the decision that will be made. Barry says Snow should make her own choice. Thomas originally stepped back and let Frost and Caitlin decide who they should be, so they are giving Snow the same choice now. The Fiddler attacks Hartley's club again, and Hartley has left to go deal with it. At the club, he finds his new Fiddler attacking his partner, who tells Hartley that she killed everyone, and she seems to kill him. The Flash shows up before Hartley can kill Fiddler, but she's not done because her instrument is down. She attacks with her voice. Flash intervenes once more before Hartley can kill Fiddler once she's downed again, and reveals that Roderick and the others are just trapped in a vibrational phase. Hartley has to use his gauntlets to get them all out, which he does, and it also fixes his heart. However, Captain Boomerang shows up and rescues Fiddler, but also takes Hartley's gauntlets. We then see Snow chooses to live her own life as Keone and Hartley destroys the CRC, enraging Mark, who vows to get revenge on Hartley. We then see the evil speedster uses the sonic gauntlets to stabilize into a physical form before planning to make Central City pay for Barry's actions, and we see the mysterious evil speedster is none other than Red Death. And that's how we end episode 2, and that wraps up my review. Overall, as I said, this episode wasn't that great. Didn't really have a lot going for it, but I did enjoy the Red Death teasers. I thought they were pretty cool, and getting to see the Red Death in the full suit, in the flesh at the end was fantastic, and it's really got me pumped up to see what Red Death's going to do next. But as I said, apart from the Red Death teasers, none of this episode had much going for it. I felt there was too much of Snow, but not enough of the Flash. So we're kind of going back to what we've been complaining about all this time, and that's Barry Allen taking a backseat to his own show. Getting tired of that, especially as this is supposed to be the final season of The Flash, and we're not off to a great start here. So, cool endings and teases aside, this episode, was not that great. So, that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on Caitlin now just being called Snow? Do you like that twist? What's your thoughts on that? What was your thoughts on the new Fiddler? Do you prefer the old one? And also, where do you see this Snow arc going? Do you think she could become the new Frost, or do you think she could become Caitlin Snow again? And also, what was your thoughts on the Red Death teases? What plans does Red Death have for Central City? When do you think Red Death will show up next? Could Red Death show up in the next episode? And what did you think of Red Death's costume? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Flash Season 9 review series, where I am going to be talking about Episode 3, which I'm very much looking forward to talking about, especially with the way this episode ended with the full reveal of Red Death. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that's going to play out, and hopefully episode 3 will be a lot better than episode 2. Fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens, because this is supposed to be the final season of The Flash, and in my honest opinion, we're not really off to a great start. So hopefully for episode 3 it will deliver. We'll see The Flash back in the driver's seat as the main lead, and hopefully we'll get back on track and onto hopefully will be a great final season for the show. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe, and once again as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.